All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our tips and tricks with impromptu speaking. My name is Rebecca Arnett. I am, in addition to doing the webinar Wednesday, being the moderator of it, I am also a distinguished Toastmaster. I've been with Toastmasters for about 5 years, and in my club, I am the queen of impromptu speaking. So I'm kind of excited to be sharing with y'all some of my tips and tricks. I based this off the Better Speaker series. If you haven't heard of it, Toastmasters has a whole series of educational sessions that you can use to help your club become better speakers. And this is one that I've given recently to my own club. So let's go ahead and get started with it. So first we're going to be talking about today. Our agenda is we're going to go over the 5-step formula, and this is something that Toastmasters provides that gives you a nice formula of things to think about as you're going through the impromptu scenario. The second thing we're going to talk about is strategies for speakers, some tips and tricks that y'all can use. The third thing we're going to talk about is the big B, so we'll go through that. And then we're going to have a little bit of a practice session. So if anybody wants to practice some impromptu speaking, I'll have a couple of questions. It'll be like table topics, but on the web. And then we're going to go ahead and close out. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right. So what is impromptu speaking and why is it important? Impromptu speaking is really any time that you have to speak without a whole lot of preparation. And we do this, we have table topics in Toastmasters. But why do we do this? Why is it such an important thing? Well, really, it's because it's the most common situation in our day to day. Very rarely do we have to give presentations, but we are almost always bombarded with impromptu situations where somebody is going to ask you the question, somebody is going to expect a response, and you can't just sit there and go, I have no idea. So impromptu speaking, being able to do it successfully, really is a cornerstone of being a good communicator. So what happens when you have to give an impromptu talk? So let's talk about that. Number one, you want to make sure that you're listening. And we do this for a couple of different reasons. Number one is because the good response is dependent on an attentive attitude. If you don't look like you're paying attention, you're going to be clocked. They're going to know it. And you want to make sure that you have an attentive attitude, that you're looking at them with the eye contact and all those other things that we learn from being an active listener. So you want to make sure that you're showing them that you're listening. And it also can provide you with a couple of different responses. So if you agree with them, it's going to reinforce the other person's words. But also, if you disagree, you can amend it or correct the original statement by just showing that you've listened to what they're saying. The other reason that you really want to listen is because they're more likely to respect you when they know that you're listening to them. Even if you're not agreeing with them, they're more likely to listen to you and respect what you're saying because you show that you're listening to them. You're actually going to be able to incorporate some of that into what you've heard. A lot of times you're going to be looking for the key things. What are the key phrases that they're saying, and what are some of the things that they're not really saying, but you could tell in their phrasing. And this also gives you a chance to communicate directly on what you've heard, so you can give an on-target response. So listening is such a big part of giving an impromptu speech because you want to make sure that you're giving the speech of exactly what it is that they've asked you about. Number two is pausing. Now, we talk about crutch words, we talk about all these things, and when you are asked a question, it's human nature to immediately start doing the word vomit. But sometimes take that pause. Now, I'm not saying pause for 2 minutes, but it's okay to take that breath and that quick thinking before you formulate your response. This allows you to refresh your thoughts, formulate your answer, to go ahead and get it, in your brain. And then it also can add drama. It allows you to absorb messages and the opportunity to respond to humor. And they say that a silent pause is actually preferable than using the verbal placeholders, and that's the crutch words that we use. So pauses are something that you want to utilize. And I know we have competition right around the corner. We're having our District 68 competition on Saturday. This is something that if you are a competitor or if you've ever thought about being a competitor, pausing before you speaking is perfectly allowed in the competition. As a matter of fact, if you haven't spoken yet, you can pause before they start timing you to formulate your answer. And a lot of people don't realize that they can use that pause, that really does help you. You don't have to immediately start speaking. The other thing that you want to keep aware of is confirming it. Um, confirming the question out loud, it's going to give you a clear idea of how what they want you to respond with. Are you sure that you've got that question and that topic in your head right? A lot of times this really helps if it's a multi-part questions, like just making sure that you and that other person are on the same page. And then telling them. Okay, so this sometimes is where we have a tendency to go a little astray. We get enthusiastic, and we just continue to tell. So when you tell, be enthusiastic, but stay focused and stick to what it is that you need. You don't have to give the 5 to 7 minute speech in the 1 to 2 minute little response. You don't have to analyze every aspect of the topic. These are small things. It's an impromptu talk is typically only 1 to 2 minutes. And the reason Toastmasters has it as 1 to 2 minutes is typically because that is about the size of a response that you're going to have in real life. So when you're telling something, make sure that you're staying at the highest level, that you're not diving deep unless you have to. And of course, number 5 is the end. So many times we, especially impromptu situations, just start talking and then we just don't end. And you want to make sure that even when it's an impromptu situation, even when it's speaking off the cuff, that you have that opening, that body, and that conclusion. And you want to make sure that what you've said, it's said. Don't belabor it. Main point, smile, eye contact, and then make sure that you end on a proper note. So let's go ahead and dive from the 5 areas to the strategies of how you do this. One is to express an opinion. For instance, we had a Toastmasters meeting today, and our question was, what was our favorite holiday since Halloween just passed? And this is expressing an opinion. You state your opinion, justify it with a supporting statement. I love Thanksgiving. The reason I love Thanksgiving is because now it's the time when my family can get together and we're all in one place. So, stating an opinion, justifying it with a supporting statement. And typically you want to use one supporting statement if answering a question. Now, if it's a brief speech, maybe 2 or 3 would be better for you. Or you could also offer reasons why you agree or disagree with the idea or concept. So you could get up there and say, what's your favorite holiday? It literally could be why you don't believe in holidays, or why all the holidays are great. You can actually give some kind of variation on this. It doesn't have to necessarily be like, you asked a question, I'm answering it exact. You can offer reasons, you can do supporting items. Another strategy that you can use when doing impromptu speaking is do a cause and effect. And this is where you actually state the situation and discuss its cause and eventual consequences. These really come in handy when you're having to say a why or why not of things. Cause and effect really comes in handy there. And then breaking the topic into components. This really works when you have something that's a pretty big question, if it's a multi-level question, if you break the topic into different components, it really does make it easier and keep it at a high level to get that 1 to 2 minute response in. And then finally, you can do a discussion of the past, the present, and the future. And that's really where you start to talk about timelines or why the things were. For instance, with the holidays, you could be saying, like, what is your favorite holiday? It could be, well, in the past, my favorite holiday was Christmas because as a child, I loved presents. And now my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving because I love having the family come in. And in the future, one day I really have a thought that my favorite holiday will be 4th of July because it will be the one holiday I don't have to cook and clean up after anybody else. So you could break it down into any way you want to. So those are just some of the strategies that Toastmasters recommends for having those impromptu situations and using that to your advantage. So whatever you do, use these 3 B's. These are the big B's. Number 1, be confident. In some of the other Better Speaker series, they talk about confidence. They talk about how to start a speech, how to conclude a speech, conquering your fear. And one of the things that keeps coming back is being confident on stage. Most of the time, we think that the audience, or we give the audience power. But quite frankly, when you are there up on the stage, you are the one that's confident. You have to be the one that's got the power. So be confident in what you're saying. And it's okay to say, I don't know, or I have to look it up. And that's fine, but be confident in whatever you're saying and exude that authority. The other thing is be brief. Again, this is not a presentation. This is not a 5 to 7 minute speech. This is typically a question and answer session. This is when somebody needs your quick question answered. And then be sincere. If you are not sincere in what you're doing, they're going to notice it immediately, and any response that you had, any respect you had, is going to go out the window immediately when you're not sincere. So always make sure that you are the big 3 B's of being confident, being brief, and being sincere whenever you give an impromptu or really any speech at all. That being said, does anybody have any questions about this so far? All right. So let's start some practicing. I have a couple questions. Who would like to be our first contestant?
Okay, I will. This is Vanessa.
All right, Miss Vanessa. Okay, so since you're our first contestant, I'm gonna keep it brief.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Halloween was yesterday, and for a lot of people, it's their favorite time of year for multiple reasons. For some, they enjoy it because it's the beginning of fall. For others, they get the time to dress up and go trick-or-treating with their friends and family. And for some, it's a time that they get to just do something fun. Miss Vanessa, what is your favorite holiday and why?
Christmas is my favorite holiday. When I think about the smells of the food cooking in the home and the energy that's brought about with the kids playing, and they're so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and excited for Santa Claus, When I think about the Christmas music and all the joy that that brings, Silent Night, Holy Night, it just gives me a warm feeling all over. It really causes me to reflect and to be thankful for everything that I have here with my family. And because it brings back very good childhood memories, I'm able to bring in to my adulthood all the fun memories from my childhood, sitting next to the Christmas tree. And at that time, we didn't have a green Christmas tree with frost. We had one of those aluminum tins, they look like tinsels. The tree branches barely had any leaves on it. And in order to make color, we had one of these globes that turned and changed the Christmas tree blue, green, yellow as the globe turned around. And I used to just sit and watch that globe, and I watched the Christmas tree change colors. And for me, that's why Christmas is definitely my favorite time of year.
All right. Well, thank you, Miss Vanessa. So we can see that she used a couple of different strategies whenever she was giving her speech. She stated her opinion and gave a couple of supporting facts about why she enjoyed, that Christmas was her favorite holiday. She used a little bit of timeline in there. It's actually talking about the past. And then, she also brought in some of the additional items. We'll go back up to strategies. She expressed her opinion with 2 to 3. And then she didn't have any cause and effects, but she did break it into components and discuss the past, present, and a little bit of the past. Now, one of the suggestions I would have for you, Miss Vanessa, would be I would stick with one concept. Typically you could, it might do just to do the past of the family and the watching of the Christmas tree, or just one to maybe 2 things, and that would be about it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
But it was great, and I'm with you. Christmas is awesome. All right, who else would like to go?
Hi, Rebecca. It's Holly. Give me a shot.
All right, Miss Holly. So Miss Vanessa talked about all the joys of Christmas and why she loved the Christmas holidays. But some people just they think that Christmas has just gotten too commercial now, and they there's this movement of bringing it back. So, Miss Holly, what is your stance on that? Are you a traditionalist, or are you a let's go commercial?
I'm a little of both, actually. I like to go shopping, and I am a December baby, just like my name. But that was not the reason why my parents named me Holly. And by the way, it happens to be my middle name. But I enjoy shopping for things with holly on them, so I can get a jump on them. And this time of year, they're all over the place. What I don't like is being bombarded with Christmas advertising and the Hallmark Channel starting with a month full of nothing but Christmas movies. I can't really get into a Christmas spirit when it's 80 degrees outside. And there's not a sleigh or snow to be seen for miles. But it's just me. I just can't really get into a winter spirit when it's nearly summer, unless, of course, maybe I go down to the southern hemisphere and celebrate Christmas their way. How about Santa Claus on a surfboard?
All right. So yes, so good job. And as you can see, Ms. Holly, she also kind of broke it down into she broke it down into her opinion and justifying it with some supporting statements. Like Christmas is her favorite because it's her birthday month, and also she kind of went through some of the cause and effects of why you know Christmas shouldn't be celebrated just yet because it's just too hard because it's not winter time yet, and nobody wants a Christmas of 80 degrees. So, but what a recommendation for you, Miss Holly, is I would recommend, also kind of just putting him into little compartments and maybe just focusing on one or two. I mean,
Okay.
like the birthday part, you could make a whole just thing on that, or you can make a whole one just on just like the cause and effect of the Christmas spirit and how hard it is to get into the Christmas spirit because the weather just doesn't cooperate down here.
Thank you so much for the feedback.
Thank you. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Would anybody else like to go? Anybody want to keep this train rolling? The difference between here and a Toastmasters meeting, I can't just point at you and go, you go. Y'all are self-muted. All right. So we've practiced just a little bit. We talked about the strategies of stating your opinion, the using the cause and effect modules, and then breaking the topic into components and using the past, present, and future as strategies when you're answering your questions. We've kind of talked about being confident, being brief, being sincere. And then we talked about, making sure that as somebody is asking the question that you're listening to them, that you're using the pauses and, you're being effective as a speaker. So next time that you are in this situation and you are asked a question, make sure that you use those strategies and practice. I mean, one of the things, you don't become a good impromptu speaker overnight. It is a practice. It is something you have to do all the time. That's why we use Toastmasters. But that's also a fun thing that you can do is if you have family with you, do some impromptu speaking with them. Ask questions. Ask random questions when you're stuck in a car on your way to Thanksgiving. Uh, do something fun with yourself, with your family, and give yourself a chance to practice that because, oops, this is what happens when you go too fast. Being able to respond spontaneously is an excellent mental habit to cultivate. It takes time and effort to develop and practice the basics. So this was the recommendation from Toastmasters, and I'm in agreement with it. Just practice, practice, practice. It's like any other type of speaking. You practice for a presentation, practice your impromptu speaking just anytime you get a chance to get on that stage. I'm available if you ever have any questions about impromptu speaking or anything else. I'd be glad to help you out. My name has been Rebecca Arnett. Does anybody have any questions? Hearing none, I'm actually going to let y'all go really early. This is only a 30-minute presentation, not an hour-long one for this week. We'll be back next week for our next webinar Wednesday. I thank you all for attending.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.